Well, I've returned to the offices of Andrew Isaacs Law here at the Pera Business Park in Melton, and I'm chatting with Nicola Magrath, who is the solicitor here dealing with family law. So thanks for inviting me, Nicola. Good to see you again.
Thanks, Christine. It's lovely to see you again too.
And we're going to have a catch-up on what's been happening in the world of family law, and also you're going to have a little chat with us about the Rotary Club of Melton Mowbray, which you're involved in. We have some questions to put to you about some of the aspects of family law that our listeners have expressed an interest in. And the first question is, my children have grown up and left home. Now that it's just me and my husband, I'm not sure I want to be with him anymore, as we don't seem to have anything in common. I'm considering separation and divorce. What options are there for me?
So there are various options for you. You could stay together and try and work through your issues, and obviously there's quite a bit of support out there, including counselling. You could have a period of separation and look at entering into a separation agreement. And this is an agreement on how property and finances are to be divided, and also arrangements for children if there are any. Or you could apply for a divorce. Now, this is a more streamlined process. It is now called a no-fault divorce. There is no blame on either party, and all that is involved is to confirm that the marriage has irretrievably broken down. There is an application online on the government website, and if you are considering your options for separation or divorce, then I'd recommend you obtain legal advice. Also, as well as divorce, you'd also want to work out how your finances are going to be divided as well, and you would want your agreement to be in a financial, legally binding consent order, so there's no future claims on either of you in the future.
What's the difference then in being legally separated and divorced?
So there's no such thing as, let's say, legal separation. You can be separated, so you can still be married but separated. There's many reasons why people may want to separate instead of getting divorced. One of them could be for religious reasons. It could be because they have a business together and they want to keep it that way. Obviously, it depends on the relationship after separation, whether it is civil or not. Also, pensions as well. So it might be that they both want, if anything was to happen to either of them, then they might still want the pension to go to the wife or husband upon death, if that was to take place. What I would say, though, if you are choosing to separate and not get divorced, then you might want to have a look at your will, as that probably would need updating. In terms of divorce, then obviously that legally ends the marriage, so you're no longer in a marriage together, and it would mean it affects entitlements to pensions. So when you are getting a divorce, I'd look at your finances as well, make sure you've got an agreement about all the assets in terms of house, pensions, and just make sure it's included in a financially, legally binding consent order.
Well, thanks very much for that answer, Nicola. And I have another question. I've heard more often about the use of ADR for family cases. What is this? Well, I've never heard of it. Would you like to explain what ADR is and how it's used in family law?
So ADR is also known as alternative dispute resolution, and it is a way of resolving a dispute without going through the courts. So in April last year, new rules were actually introduced in family courts, which give courts powers to encourage parties to engage in the ADR process, and they also can award cost penalties for anyone unreasonably refusing to engage in any ADR. So there are many types of ADR. I think the most common one that you may have heard of is mediation, and there's also negotiation, but there are other types as well available to you. And I would recommend you obtain legal advice to go through the various options and see what's suitable for your circumstances.
So the next question, Nicola, is I'm getting divorced from my wife and I have a big pension. Is there any way of protecting this? Because obviously this must be quite a worry for the future.
So if there's no post-nuptial or prenuptial agreement in place, then the starting point for all marital assets is a 50-50 split. However, there are certain factors which could change the division of how the assets are to be divided. One of this is the needs of the parties. There are also ways of keeping the majority or all of your pension, and this can be balanced out with your wife receiving, say, a larger share of the equity in the house, if that's possible. What I would say is it's important to obtain legal advice on any division of the assets, and you might need something called a POD, which is a pension expert, to advise on how the pension should be split.
We're in a farming area, and there's been a lot of talk about farmers and family farms and so on. What happens if there's a farmer who's getting a divorce? He would like to know, how would my farm be valued and divided in a divorce?
So farming cases can be quite complex because they involve various assets and business structures, and a lot of farms I've been with families for generations, so there's also an emotional attachment to them. So when dealing with farming divorce cases, there's various factors that need to be considered. The main one is the valuation of the farm, and this includes all assets of the farm, including lands, building, machinery, livestock, business structures, and I'd recommend that a professional valuation is obtained to ensure that it's accurately valued. We'd also need to look at the ownership of the assets, the income of both parties, including any income generated by the farm, the contribution of each of you to the marriage and the farming business, the needs of any children involved, which includes their housing needs. If there's any tax implications on any settlement, we would need an expert tax specialist to advise on that. And also whether there's any pre-nuptial or post-nuptial agreement in place, as that could affect how the farm is divided or kept by one or the other. So in terms of what could happen to the farm, the most common ways are the farm is sold and the proceeds split, or one party buys out the other party's share, or like I mentioned in my previous answer of pensions, one party could keep the farm, but the other party has a larger share of another asset. But it all depends on the marital assets available to share.
Also related to that question, how can I protect my farm in the event of a divorce?
So there are ways of protecting the farm in the event of divorce. You could enter into a prenuptial agreement prior to getting married, or a postnuptial agreement after marriage to protect your assets. What I would say is for a prenuptial agreement, there needs to be at least 28 days before you get married for any agreement to be effective. You both need to have exchanged full information about your financial situation. You would need to have obtained independent legal advice, that's for both parties, and the agreement needs to be fair and reasonable. You can also look at your inheritance, if there's ways of that being kept separate, if there is any inheritance or any trusts. I would also recommend any contributions that you've made directly for the farm, you keep notes about this, and it's very important again to obtain legal advice on your options.
So, Nicola, thanks very much for updating us on family law. And, of course, if anybody wants any more information to contact you, how would they do that?
So you can contact us by telephone. We've got a website online or social media. There's various ways of contacting us. The main number is 01664 896 218.
And you mentioned consulting other experts, such as tax specialists and so on. Can you put people in touch with those?
Yes. So we obviously have experts that we know or we've used previously and can provide our clients with a list of experts that we recommend to them, and then they can choose who they think would be most suitable for them.
Well, thanks very much for answering all those questions on family law, Nicola. So now, with your other hat on, tell us about what's been happening with the Rotary Club of Melton Mowbray recently.
So we had the young musician that was at John Fernley College last Saturday, and a young lady called Hannah Potter won the event, and she played the saxophone, so well done, Hannah, and she's entering the district final on Saturday. After that, we've got an upcoming event called Melton's Got Talent. That's going to be at Melton Theatre on Saturday the 1st of February. It starts at 7:30pm, and there's still tickets available. They're only £6, including a booking fee, so if you want to go tickets to that event, then there's still tickets available for you to book. Just go to Melton Theatre or their webpage. There's going to be a varied range of acts, including comedians, dancers, singers and rock band. And then we have another upcoming event, which will be on Friday, the 7th of March, to celebrate International Women's Day. So I did this last year, and it was such a great event, I wanted to do it again. So there's going to be inspirational speakers, there's going to be a buffet and drinks, and this is going to be at Soy Indian Restaurant at Melton Mowbray, and there will be further information in this shortly.
Is that only open to women to attend?
No, it's for anyone. Obviously, it's celebrating women, but men are very welcome to attend as well.
Well, thank you very much, Nicola, for speaking with 103 The Eye today. It's always nice to see you.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to see you too.
I've been speaking with Nicola Magrath, who's a solicitor with Andrew Isaacs Law, based here at the Pera Business Park in Melton Mowbray. Thank you.